Welcome to another Horror Franchise Wednesday. Let's talk about Return of the Living Dead 2. I got the DVD, not the Shout Factory release, because I'm a cheapskate. I did read that the Shout Factory version has the original theatrical score, and this one does not. This has a different score. That's a bummer, because I was not crazy about this score. I'm curious if the original score is better, because I was not a fan of this one at all. And I got my Return of the Living Dead shirt for part 1, and I'm sure I'm going to have some green screen problems with this because it's kind of greenish. So I'm not sure if that's going to be a problem. If so, I will just cover it up. I showed you, now I can just cover it up so I don't have a big old hole in my chest throughout this review. But anyways, yeah, let's talk about Return of the Living Dead Part 2, which was originally not written to be a sequel, but the producer, Tom Fox, I read, told Ken to make it a sequel. And this guy is the director of Eyes of a Stranger and Shockwaves. And I noticed that the editor was Charles Bornstein. If you don't know who that is, that guy edited Halloween, The Fog, and all kinds of movies. So I saw that name. I was like, hey, I recognize that name because I just watched The Fog recently. And so, yeah, this movie tells the story of, once again, Trioxin getting released. The zombies come, you got a kid in this new neighborhood that's being built, and his sister, and a cable guy, alongside, I don't know what I was saying there, alongside with Thom Matthews and James Karen playing completely different characters this time. They're grave robbers. They team up with the boy, his sister, and the cable guy to fight the zombies, along with this new doctor who was supposed to be the same doctor, what's his name, Ernie, in part 1. They were going to bring back that actor, which is a shame that they didn't, because that would have been cool. What a missed opportunity to not bring back that actor, Don Calfa, who was the assassin in Weekend at Bernie's. I just watched that recently. So yeah, very weird right off the bat. Like, there's not a whole lot of sequels and franchises that do this, where they bring back actors to play completely different characters in the sequel. That's supposed to be a direct sequel, because there's another character in this movie, the Colonel, who's played by the same guy who was in part 1. So this does take place in the same universe, right? And this is a direct sequel, right? Did I miss something? So this is the same universe, I'm guessing, and this is a continuation, but you got two actors from the first one playing completely different characters, but you got this actor playing the same character in the sequel, and they were going to bring back the other actor to play this doctor in this one. It's very confusing. So the continuity is not that great in this franchise. That's confusing as fuck. It's almost like this is a different dimension, like, some other universe where even like these two are just doomed. No matter what dimension they're in. No matter who they are, Freddy, or in this case like Ed or whatever, they always end up meeting the same fate where they just die by zombies and trioxin and whatnot. But yeah, let's get into the things that I liked about this movie. I really liked the zombies overall this time. I mean, they're really goofy looking, but I like that they actually put some creativity into the looks of all of them. Like in the last one, they didn't really put too much, in my opinion, much effort into making each zombie look cool or different or creepy or funny. You just had like Tarman and then like the half zombie that you see on my shirt. Those were the two that stood out, and then the amputee one. But everyone else didn't really look that great. The makeup on all the zombies from the cemetery, they didn't really look that good, in my opinion. But in this one, I thought all the zombies, they all stood out. They all looked cool. The one that got his face punched in, all the ooze coming out of the face, and then there was like the pus face one, and they all looked cool. I like the effects of the zombies in this one, and I like that they carried over the whole brains thing, and they just want brains, and they talked still, and I think sometimes they run in this one. And I think they slow down in this one. But yeah, I like that they still talk, so that's cool. Because it creates a funny joke later on, where the whole Harry Truman thing, that was pretty funny. And I really like that character, Doc Mandel. He was the standout character for me. He was really funny. He was just being really silly. Like, this whole movie is very silly. This is comedy that is not for everybody. This is a completely different tone from the first one. So it's either going to be for you and work for you 100%, or it's going to most likely not work for you almost at all. And unfortunately, that's where I landed. Like, I've seen this movie twice now. I saw it for the first time almost a year ago. And I had the same problem that I did this time. I was hoping that maybe I was exaggerating how much I didn't like it the first time. But no, on this viewing, it was just as annoying as I thought it was the last time I watched this movie. So yeah, negatives. There's not a whole lot I like about this movie. There's really not. Like James Karen, I still like him. He's way more obnoxious in this one. So it's still like a problem I have with this movie. Even like I like him, but he's still a problem. I like seeing him. And he's very similar to his character in part one, but he's dialed up more in this one, and it's a little annoying. Gets on my nerves. So negatives is I don't like the tone of this movie. I don't like the humor. It did not land for me almost at all. There's a couple of moments where I had a chuckle, but it's way too PG Goosebumps episode like humor. It's so silly. It feels way too like tame. You go from part one where there's all kinds of gratuitous nudity, there's gore, people getting, their brains eaten out on screen. And then you get to this one where it's just like slapsticky and just there's kids in it. There was no kids in the other one. And it just feels like it's for children. It doesn't feel like it's for adults. Like that's a big problem I have with this. They bring in children, so you just know that they're gonna make it. There's never a moment where I was like tense and I was like, oh my gosh, the kid could die, because kids never die. They almost never die in film, and that's why I hate having them in here. So, not a fan of the kids being introduced into the series and them being the main characters, and their acting, especially like the bully. Oh God, and the main kid too. Like they're kid actors, so they're not that good. Yeah, that was pretty bad. I did not like the acting from almost anybody, because they were all basically told to dial it up. Everybody is so obnoxious in this movie. There's so much screaming and yelling, which I get it. Like you would be like this in this situation if there were zombies around every corner. You would be panicking. But as the audience, it's so annoying to watch and listen to. Every scene, they're just constantly like, oh my God. He's getting on his hands and knees. He's praying. That's kind of funny. But like the girlfriend, oh my God, Brenda. I was just yelling at the TV like, shut the fuck up, Brenda. And I really like that actress. Suzanne Synder, I think is her name. She was in Killer Clowns from Outer Space. And I think that one teen comedy in the mid-'80s, I forget what it's called. Weird Science, I think. That was her. Like, I like her, but in this movie, she is fucking annoying. I wanted to slap the shit out of her. She's just constantly screaming. There's so much repetition. Like, I hate when lines are repeated, like, again and again and again and again. That's why I can't listen to certain songs when they just have like that one line and they repeat it 60 times and they call it a song. And it's like, that's not a song. It's you saying the same thing on loop for 3.5 minutes. It's not a song. I can't listen to music today because that's all it is. It's like 2 lines that somebody wrote on a napkin and they went to the studio and they said, put that shit on loop. That's how this movie is in a lot of scenes. They just keep repeating shit like, what, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. It's so goddamn annoying. I was so irritated while watching this movie. It's not a terrible film, but the comedy and the craziness, it just didn't work for me. It was just irritating me. There's too much yelling, and the kid is unrealistic as hell. Like, I haven't seen a kid written this unrealistic since, like, Home Alone. Like, this kid is way too smart for his age. And I don't know how old he is. He's supposed to be maybe 8, 7, somewhere around that range. But he is like using words that he shouldn't be using. He's got a big vocabulary, and he's a fucking moron too. So he's smart and he's a moron at the same time, because throughout the film he just keeps separating from the group. Who would do that? That is so unrealistic. It's a silly movie, so you can't like criticize it too much, but it's like, really, come on, you're being lazy. Like, I need to get him away from the group. No kid would leave the safety and comfort of family and adults that could protect him. Like, fuck you guys, I'm gonna go leave and just be on my own in the middle of a zombie apocalypse. That's ridiculous. So I had a huge problem with this kid. He was unrealistic as fuck. Did not like his acting, didn't like his presence in the film, because I don't like kids in my horror movies. And cringy dialogue too. And repeated dialogue too. And yeah, so... And then I didn't like just having James Karen and Thom Matthews back. If you're going to bring people back, I mean, you got 3 of them, commit. Bring all of them back. I read that they brought back the Scuzz or whatever from part 1. He plays a zombie in this one and part 3. But that's not the same thing. Like, bring them all back. I want trash back. If you're going to keep bringing back characters, bring them all back, not just two. And yeah, and it's just redundant. This movie almost feels like it's plagiarizing part one, like completely ripping it off. It's just, they bring back the same lines, they bring back the same story beats, like from beginning to end. It's like, do something different. Like, still have zombies, but do something different. They go through the whole rigmarole that the first one went through. Like, oh my gosh, it's Thom Matthews, his character's first day on the job, and then, watch your tongue if you want to keep your job, and then, oh, they got hit by the gas, and now they're slowly dying. They got rigor mortis now. He has a girlfriend that he attacks by the end. Same thing happening throughout the whole fucking thing. Meanwhile, you got these kids that I don't give a shit about. Just wasn't a fan. It's not, like, at the same time, I can't say it's a terrible movie, because I can see people liking this. If the humor is your type of humor, this tone, if it works for you, then it's a good movie. But it just did not work for me. But I won't say that this movie is, dog shit and it's terribly made. It has a decent production value to it. I think there's definitely a bigger budget here than part one, especially with all those like effects towards the end that I read they spent like over $50,000 on just for those, lightning effects and stuff. This one definitely feels bigger. There's a lot more locations and whatnot. But overall, I just wasn't that big of a fan of it, but I can't not recommend it. So when it comes to Return of the Living Dead Part 2, it's a decent follow-up, but it does not hold a candle, in my opinion, to Part 1. That is one of the best zombie movies ever made. So this one, to me, is just a drastic step down. The tone was way too silly, but consider streaming this, borrowing it from a friend, or renting it at Redbox. Alright, time for the spoiler discussion. So, we get narration in the opening, and they're transporting the trioxin, I'm guessing from the location of part 1. They grabbed it after the bomb went off. I'm not sure if this is really a continuation. I'm starting to doubt myself if it really is a direct continuation. But with Colonel Glover here, I'm thinking it is, right? So I'm guessing this truck got the trioxin from the location in part 1. They gathered it all up or something. The shit that was in that you need a supply place. And why would you not fasten that shit tightly? Like, you have Armageddon in your back seat and you're gonna just barely put a belt around it that's not even tightened at all, and then he's listening to music conveniently so he can't hear it like hit the ground when it bounces out, and it takes the army like over 24 hours to realize that they have a missing barrel. Bullshit. All right, this is trioxin we're talking about. They would have an eye on this thing. Like, all right, where is it? Like, okay, it fell out here because there was 3 that fell out, and when they found 2, like, they would have been like, all right, we're missing one. Okay, well, it has to be around here somewhere. They would have found it quickly. So I call bullshit right there. Terrible open. So, and then we get typical bullies that we always get. They're just awful. Why have 2 bullies? Like, the other bully in the movie, he disappears and he's never seen again. So why was there 2 bullies written into the film if you're just going to make the other one disappear? And why would you bring your girlfriend along on your first day of grave robbing? Like, hey, honey, I'm going to go rob some graves. It's my first day on the job. You want to tag along and just hide and just sit in the van all night? Like, they get there, it's broad daylight. It's the middle of the day. And then the next time we see them, they're like on a lunch break. It's nighttime and storming, and she's still sitting in the van. Dedicated girlfriend. Like, she's like, I don't care, he's worth it. I'll just sit out here for hours and wait for him to get off work. Like, that's a little too much for me. I would break up with her. Like, you're too attached, you're weird, that you're actually, just, like, the fact that you're waiting in the van for hours on end for me to get off work, and you don't mind the fact that I'm robbing graves. Like, she knew what they were doing, right? I think. But yeah, that blew my mind that she was waiting hours for them to do what they were doing. Ridiculous. Why couldn't she just wait at home? She didn't need to be in the movie at all, really. You could write that character out and it would make the movie better because she was the most annoying character in the film. Whatever. So, whatever. Okay, so the bullies in this one are the ones responsible for this mess. They're the ones that open the trioxin. And so in the first movie, this is not consistent here. So in the first one, the trioxin gas, it comes out and it immediately kills James Cameron and Thom Matthews, they die. They pass out, they're dead, they wake up and slowly realize that they're zombies. In this one, the bullies smell it, and then they have all day to slowly realize that they're dead. So that's just not consistent at all. They should have done what the first one did. They should have died right there and then. But whatever. So for some reason, there's a comic book in the movie that this kid has that's completely like foreshadowing everything, like identical. Like everything he sees in that book is like verbatim what's happening with the barrel, where it is in the comic book, and what it's doing. That was weird. And I like how this kid goes next door to the bullies trying to like find out if he's okay or trying to get information from him or something. And he's at the front door and he's lying about why he's there. He's like, I got all kinds of homework assignments that I need to show him. But he's there empty handed. He's got nothing on him. So the fact that the mom bought his bullshit in that moment is ridiculous. Like, she would have been like, I don't see nothing in your hand. There's nothing in your jacket. You're lying to me, bitch. Go back home. You ain't got no homework. So that was just ridiculous as well. Now I'm really nitpicking. So then we get Tarman 2.0, and this one looks fine. Like, he's still creepy. He's got really big eyes now. I don't think it's anywhere as cool looking as the first one, but I dug it. I like the look. And then we get the dead rising from the grave. The music kicks in. I like that shot that, pans, the tracking shot of the cemetery, all of them coming out of the ground. And then you get some weird slapsticky humor here with the zombies getting stepped on when they're trying to get out. They keep stepping on the hand, pushing him down. Weird humor. He's like coughing up dirt out of his mouth. I like how in these zombie movies you never actually get to see them like break out of the coffin. That's what I want to see. Just once. Is there a movie that does that? Like, you never, like, in these movies, they always come out of the ground like they were never buried properly in a casket. Like they come out of the ground like they were just buried like 6 inches beneath the dirt and they just come out like doing a sit-up. It's ridiculous. Like they'd be 6 feet under, they would be in a casket like they showed in part 1, but we never actually get to see, and this is what I want to see one day, is a zombie come alive in the casket and like, do some Kill Bill shit and like punch his way out of the casket and then start digging. We never get to see that stuff. But yeah, I like that scene. It's probably the best scene right there. Just them coming out of the ground, all that stuff, the atmosphere looked pretty cool. And then we get some jokes in here that you would only get if you watched part 1, where James Cameron in this one says, when I die, I'm going to be cremated. And, he cremates himself in part 1. Then he says the whole, watch your tongue. So they got that joke again here. Oh my gosh. So then we get the severed head, and it's like he puts his finger in the mouth like an idiot. James Cameron. He's like, puts his finger in it, and he gets bit. It's just like, why would you put your finger in that head in the first place? And then the whole screwdriver thing. Oh my God. Like, this is when it went a little too far for me. Like, seriously, come on. Like, the voice that they decided to use was ridiculous. It almost sounded like Pee Wee Herman or something, like, get that screwdriver out of my head.
Get that damn screwdriver out of my head.
Oh my gosh, that's a little too silly for me. All right. But it's funny because I like Terrorvision, but that just made me cringe when I heard that line, the way it sounded. I was like, oh my God, really? And who the fuck puts their finger in the mouth? And then, so the kid says like a no brains joke to his sister, like, they seem to like brains, so I think you'll be good. See what I mean? Like, no 6-year-old would come up with a joke like that, all right? No one. I mean, he has to be like at the most 6, right? He claims that he's not even in grade school yet. So, well, how old is he? He's like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna die and I'm not even in grade school yet. It's like, bullshit. You're way too smart for someone who's not even in school yet. Get the fuck out of here. It's like, are they saying he's like 4? I like that the bully eats his mom, but they, cut away too quick. So, like I said, this is like a PG zombie flick. And then we get to meet the Dr. Mandel character, and I like that when he sees one of the zombies, he's like, oh, I recognize him. He was a patient of mine. Sorry that you're dead now. We just didn't have enough donor blood. He's like apologizing for his death. I thought that shit was actually kind of funny. That was the best joke in the movie, next to the whole Harry Truman stuff. And so then after that, we get this meta moment with the deja vu joke, and he's like, I swear we've been through this before. Me, you, them. like referencing the fact that they were in part one, and then we get this whole like idle hands scene. This hand that somehow has so much like strength, even though it's just a hand. Like it has so much leverage. It's like grabbing them, they just can't pull it off. It's like just it. It would be so easy. It has no muscle. It's just a hand. You could just flick it right off of you. It's bullshit. And then another moment where it went too far. The hand hits the ground and it flips off the camera. And that's what I was doing watching the movie. Not really, but that's what I wanted to do in that moment, was flip off my TV. Like, no, fuck you, movie. That's not funny. I like that a pet store is getting attacked. There's all kinds of dogs and cats getting eaten. Not really like on screen, but it's very much implied, the sound effects. And there's monkey noises. That pet store is selling monkeys. I heard a monkey noise. I swear to God. So then they get to like this hospital, and we get the whole rigor mortis thing once again, and the kid decides to split from the group for some reason. He does it like 2 or 3 times in this movie, and every time it bugs the piss out of me because they have to keep going and rescuing his ass, and they should just let him die to learn his lesson. Seriously. It's like, why is he leaving? I never heard an explanation. I might have missed it. I was taking a note, but why did he leave? Oh, I'm going to go prove how tough and brave I am. Fuck you, sis. I'm my own man. It's just dumb. No 6-year-old in a zombie apocalypse would leave the group to go do whatever he wanted to do. It made no sense. And then we get the one scene that made this movie rated R, I read. It was gonna be PG-13, but then this guy, the zombie, got shot in half. The shotgun blast blew him away, and then his lower half is walking around. You can see like its innards a little bit. That made it rated R. That little thing right there. Even though there's no blood involved, it's just a little bit of intestines. There's no blood on them. That made it rated R, which is just ridiculous. This could easily be PG-13 today, if you think about it. Because there's no swearing, there's no nudity, and there's really no gore. So, PG-13. And so, I guess conveniently, the army just didn't know about their neighborhood. Like, they keep saying that we see that the army evacuated the whole town. And they're like, oh my gosh, they evacuated the whole town. And they forgot their cul-de-sac. That's just convenient. Like, how did they forget their cul-de-sac? Because it's being built? Like, they would not. No. Bullshit. All right. There's no way the army skipped their neighborhood for some reason and they couldn't save them. I don't buy that at all. So then the girlfriend gets eaten by her boyfriend, Thom Matthews, in this one. So that's different from the first one. And I found it really odd, the ADR screaming. I think I heard that in the original theatrical version, like she's like moaning, like it's sexual, like, eat my brains. But in my version, there's like ADR screaming as she's getting her brains eaten, but the look on her face does not match what's being heard. I did like that she said, "I'm not into dead guys." That was a okay line. That one kind of made me chuckle. And I like that the zombies know how to drive now. These zombies are way different than the zombies in part one. Like, they talk like them, but in this one, they're driving now. They seem to have more personalities, and like when the one gets out of the ground, she puts glasses on. Like, they still retain, the personalities from before they died. Then we get this whole like Critters 2, trap where they lure the zombies to a specific area and they use food to get them there. Kind of reminded me of Critters 2. And in this one, the weakness is electricity. I would have preferred fire because that one makes more sense. Like, the bullets aren't killing them. Chopping them in pieces isn't killing them. Each body part is alive. The only thing that makes sense is to burn them. Electricity doesn't really make as much sense to me at all. And it ended up costing them extra money in the end, so I think it would have been cheaper for fire instead of this optical visual effect, whatever it is, CGI, whatever, lightning, which always looks bad. When you get that cheesy 80s, like, blue electricity on the screen, it always looks corny as hell. And they spent like $50,000 on it. Not worth it. Like, you don't need it. You don't need the visual clue for your audience to get what's going on. Like, we get it. They're being electrocuted. We don't need to see the actual charge going through their body. That's just overkill. And so, yeah, they get them there to the electricity place. I'm surprised Buck wasn't there. Bucky from Halloween 4. That would have been cool to see Bucky there. Don't pull that Halloween shit on me. You just stand right there. I'm calling the cops. So, yeah, we get Michael Jackson here, which was improvised on set. And that's another moment where they went too far. Very silly. And the bully versus the kid, very anticlimactic, very quick. not tense at all, not funny, not nothing. It's just like, oh, the kid's fighting the bully. He sticks the screwdriver through his mouth. He drops these little one-liners like he's Arnold Schwarzenegger, and it does not land. He's like, that's why you're dead. Big mouth and no brains. Oh, God. Kill me now. And throughout this whole third act, there's a scream on loop. I felt like I was watching Humanoids from the Deep. There's a scream on loop. And that drove me nuts. Remember what I was talking about? Repetition, stuff like that? Here it is again. Repetition. Just the same scream every 2 seconds. Again and again and again and again. For like 10 minutes straight. And I couldn't help but hear it. And therefore, once I heard it, I couldn't do anything but focus on it instead of what was being said. It's like, oh my God, there's that scream again. Oh, it drove me nuts. And then the whole fucking... the severed head on the ground at the very end. Whatever she said, it was very silly. Oh, we'll get you next time, something like that. Like, I forget what she said. It was very stupid.
Don't hit a girl when she's down. Oh. Okay, no more brain. You win.
So yeah, not a big fan, obviously, but it's not for everyone, but maybe it's for you. Let me know if you liked it. My favorite character in this movie, the Hockey Mask Award, will go to Dr. Mandel. Because he's just the funniest character without being annoying, really. And the Hanky Award for worst character in this movie is the bully. I found his performance to be one of the weakest, and I can't stand bullies. And the hottest chick in this movie is Brenda Suzanne Synder. And the Clapper Award for best scene in this movie is when the trioxin is first released, and you see all the zombies coming out of the ground, and the music starts playing, the smoke, the atmosphere, like that scene, looks the best. And the Funny Bone Award for funniest moment in the movie is the Harry Truman joke.
Pardon me, but could you tell me who the President of the United States is?
Harry Truman.
And those are my thoughts on Return of the Living Dead Part 2. Sorry if I sounded like I was way too hard on it, but it just wasn't my movie, not my humor. So there's my honest opinion. That's what you always get from me, never gonna lie. So there you go. Not a big fan of it. Never gonna watch it again, more than likely. Unless I'm paid to. So there you go. What are your thoughts on Return of the Living Dead Part 2? Put your thoughts of it in the comments below. And as always, if you like what you've seen, you can hit this like button and become a subscriber today just by clicking on my cartoon face in about 5 seconds. And until next time, Auf Wiedersehen.